Morning, everybody. It is 8:11 a.m. June 20th. We're at Quad Witching Day. Some people call it triple, but pretty much the same thing. There's just quad witching, for what I was taught, was basically futures contracts rolling over, futures options expiring, stock options expiring today, and index options. So that's the quad witching. Okay. There's about $6.5 trillion to expire today. 6.5 trillion. So you can have early on volatility, raise in volume, and then what you can expect sometimes is what you call pinning. Pinning. And when these stocks will pin, they will pin to large gamma levels. Large gamma levels. Now I do gamma levels at 9 a.m. So you're probably not going to be able to. Like when I do it for today, I have an app I built that gives me the gamma levels every day, as well as the month and the week or whatever. And I generate that at 9 o'clock, and I'll be able to see the large gamma levels. We could take a look at some of them on my chart just to give you an example. Because later on in the day, if stocks start to die down, they will pin. Stocks will pin to certain gamma levels because there's such a large gamma concentration on the gamma levels that they'll pin. See it a lot of times. I think the last time it didn't really happen as much, but the prior three times I think it pinned right to the penny. All right. Now this market's kind of a little wild, right? Because we left it on Wednesday. Good morning, Chief. We left it on Wednesday, right? And we closed unchanged from the prior day after the FOMC, right? And then we proceeded to go lower all after Wednesday. Now we bounced right back where? To literally the middle of balance. So we're right back in this middle of balance, which is a horrible location to be, on quad witching. Okay? And there was just a news that came out that Iran, or Iran, however you want to say it, is looking to reduce their uranium, which just launched the markets higher out of this consolidation. And we'll get into that at all the levels. Okay, we'll get into that at all the levels. Anyway, welcome to my channel. Let's get this started. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets. Long supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That's my edge. Okay. I also use anchored VWAPs and my trusty market internals that show me when the market opens. Okay, what is going on under the hood. All right, so that's how I look at markets. I hope to impart some of that wisdom on anybody who watches. All right, those levels are very important. Now, if you're watching first time, please subscribe. Set an alert days every morning. Come join me. Give you the lowdown, the story of the markets, the leaders and the laggards, the market news, the economic calendar, daily charts. We get into a bunch of TA, and then later on it's the ES and the Nasdaq futures analysis, and I give long and short trade scenarios. Okay, long and short trade scenarios. Okay. Now, if you want to go one step further than that, all right, I have a Discord, all right, and you can get my live commentary every morning, all right. If you want to join Confluence Trading's that Discord, okay, go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, sign up. Got a couple new people in there. Hopefully, I can go live today, and you guys can see my live commentary if people are in there, okay. People are in there and they want to see live commentary. I will definitely do that. Usually I'm in there with a couple of my friends. All right, so, and I give my live commentary on what's going on in the markets. Okay, I think we're ready for a look at this watch list here. Let's do it. And here we go. All right. Now, Ethereum is leading the pack, up 2.34%. Bitcoin's up 2.08%. The 10-year yield is back up to 0.93. Russell's up 0.93. Nasdaq's up 0.20. The Dow is up 0.15, ES up 0.13, the dollar is down 0.20, crude is down 0.33, 30-year bonds being sold down 0.55, gold is down 1.28%. Okay. Silver's down 2.39. The VIX is down 12.09%. Now, I did see Trump say that there's a 2 weeks that they're going to make the decision if they're going to get involved or not. Okay, now with this Iran saying about this uranium and the 2 week pause is probably to have some negotiations to maybe avoid this, right? So the markets seem to like that. That's why gold's pulling back. Okay, gold's a safe haven, especially with geopolitical stuff. All right, moving on to Mag 7. Let's look at this. Coinbase, the Bitcoin proxy. Now, Coinbase ripped last session. Ripped. And I'm sure Chief's listening. I know that something, I read it the other day and I understood why it was ripping, but I don't remember. But it was ripping, okay? Tesla's up 1.67%, AMD up 0.95. Let's go to the bottom here. Let's see if there's any real laggers here. Google down 0.24. That's really not that big of a deal. All right, now top sectors. Is there anything to note? No, we're not even going to go there. We're going to go sectors. Now remember, every time I look at sectors, risk on, risk off is semiconductors usually. Semiconductors are up 0.36, not a ton. All right. Then you got discretionary up 0.38, financials up 0.22, and there's nothing negative. All right, nothing negative. Now quad witching day, and we're in the middle of balance. I'm telling you, horrible trade location. All right, horrible. You're in the middle of the muck. All right, in the middle of the muck. All right. Now we could look at internals. You know what? I'm not going to go over internals. That's not worth it to go over an FOMC day because it's just nuts. Now, that day did have some stuff early on. We'll just go over it real quickly. Early on, there was some decent stuff happening because there was news. And we ripped up from a key level. And Trump, I believe, was talking about peace talks with Iran, and that just made the market surge more. And then FOMC happened. So, like I said, nothing much to gleam in there on an FOMC day because it's just friggin' wild. You can see the wildness after FOMC. It's not really worth talking about. Okay, we're gonna get right into the economic calendar now. Let's do that. And today, Philly Fed at 8:30. Let's really Philly Fed is it today. That's going to move markets. I mean, we can go back to the 1 star. I mean, 10 a.m. There's this CB. This stuff doesn't usually move the markets. Okay. Now I can hear some large orders hitting the tape again. I don't know if something came out over the wire again. All right. That's what's going on there. Now let's just see. Just check out the juice here. I'm going to refresh the juice here. All right. So you can see here this market mover here, senior Iranian official, Iran or Iran, is ready to discuss limitations on its uranium enrichment, which made the markets go higher, right? So right now the market's pushing up, and this is expected. Okay, and I'll explain why in a second. Technical why, TA wise, all right? So that's what's going on right now. All right, let's see if this can explain it even farther. If it can't, we'll move on. Let's see here. Let me just refresh this. Like I said, let's see here. Like I said, I'm not going to go crazy about it. Well, that's the news. Let's see here. Oh, nope. We're not going to do it. We're going to get into here. All right, let's see here. Exclusive NVIDIA Foxconn in talks to deploy humanoid robots at Houston AI server making plant. Let's see. EU says it's probing corporate structure of Musk's X months after XAI deal. UK grocery watchdog probes Amazon over alleged supplier payment delays. No. I'm just trying to see here. Turkey's antitrust authority will launch a probe into Google's Performance Max. All right. Like I said, I'm only going to go over stuff that I feel like that's moving. Boxcore. No, no. Meta. No. Microsoft. So Microsoft, the tech firm, is planning to cut thousands of jobs, particularly in sales. Okay. Now, Tesla, a group of Democratic Texas lawmakers has asked Tesla to delay its much anticipated robotaxi launch in Austin until September. This is pretty cool. How is Tesla expected to remotely control its robotaxis and what are its limitations? So Amazon got a target raise here to 250 from 215. Lennar, KBW cuts target price 114 from 128. United Health, oh boy, I'm liking that. United Health, JP Morgan raises target price to 418 from 405, noting the company's strategic focus on managing enrollment and potential discontinuing unprofitable plans by 2026. All right. Now United Health's getting a little of it today, but not much. But that's decent. That stock's been beaten down. Okay, that stock's been beaten down. Quick look at the breadth here. Okay, I like to look at this as just an overall breadth, and this makes lines right up with what the market's doing. So this is S&P 500, and this is the percentage of stocks over the 20-day simple moving average. We're at 43%, so close to 50. That makes sense. That makes sense why our stock market's doing what it's doing, right? We're just in balance, not doing much. We're not doing much, okay? And there's plenty of indicators you can see that you can just look at it as your eye, VWAPs, this. All right. Now, we're going to move over to the daily charts. Now, the daily chart isn't going to tell us a lot because a lot of stuff has happened, okay, that was in the overnight hours in the futures market. Market was closed. Stock market was closed. So it was strictly futures yesterday. Right? So it's going to, it skews it a little bit. So let's get into this mess here because we just been chilling in this range. This is the range. This is the playground. Okay. So we closed here. Remember I said it was basically unchanged from the prior day. Basically, it was unchanged. We didn't do anything. Okay. Where are we at now? 596.50. Let's call it 596.50. We are right at, what is that? Wednesday's lows. 596.50. We are at Wednesday's lows. But we were a lot lower in futures, okay? That's where we're at. Wednesday's lows. Let's look at futures. Futures gives us the action, all right? The action that I'm saying that we missed. All right? And this is what right here. Look at this day. Look at that wick. This is futures, see? Look at that wick. You went all the way down to last week's lows and broke last week's lows and got bought all the way back up. See that wick? So we did nothing. This was just dip that got bought. Whoop. Look at that range. Just, my God. We're not doing anything. So if you're going to talk about a range here, hopefully they'll let me do it. Yeah. That's what we're doing in futures. That's from, I mean, you could even include this day and this day. Let me even extend that. Let's extend it. Okay. Look at that. That's what we're not doing anything since June 3rd. Nothing. And where are we? Price is right in the middle of this range. You see what I'm talking about? Horrible trade location. Done nothing. That's how you have to look at markets, okay? Don't get into, oh my God, we just got bought up from the lows. We're in the middle of the crap. We're in the middle of the range, okay? Just like I showed you right there. In the middle of that. Okay? Let's go move on to Qs. Okay? That's what I'm saying. You got to look at the big picture. Let's go to the range we've been in. Okay? Remember, unchanged even in the Qs. Now, where are we at now? 529. Let's call it 529.85. 529.85. That's interesting. The Qs, hmm, they're like in the middle of Wednesday's session. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Now, let's look at the live look at the NASDAQ futures. Again, big range. We haven't been doing anything. Okay, let's look at this together. This has been a long, this is just a long range, okay? This just shows you this indecision in these markets. There it is, folks. There's your range since, again, June 3rd in futures. Look at this. Tried to go higher, nope. Tried to go lower, nope. Where are we at? In the middle of this box. Horrible trade location. You're just in indecision. You're just back to balance. This is horrible to trade from. Get ready to get chopped up to pieces in this area. That stinks. Because when we were down here, I was like, ooh, this is probably going to be a long here. And then that news came out and it just brought us right back to balance. Okay? So nothing to see here. There's no like, woo, like this is nothing to see. Okay? We're going to move on. We're going to move on to triple-headed monster. Let's look at that bond market. Now, the bond market was kind of falling. It was kind of falling. And then we're riding this downtrend. Okay? This bond market just does not know what it wants. Okay? It does not know what it wants. And quick tip. Okay? I mean I'm sure people notice, but maybe some people don't. All right? Quick tip. If you just want to really quickly know by moving averages, right? What your markets are doing. Well, 200-day moving average, what is that? Flat. That tells you already. The 200-day moving average is right here, and it's showing you flat. That right there is telling you the last 200 days the market hasn't, the yields have not done much. 100-day moving average, pretty much flat, right? Then you go to the 50, pretty much flat. And then you go to more recent 20-day moving average, pretty much flat. And then you go to the 9, EMA daily. Look at that, flat. So it's going nowhere. There's going to be a big move. There's going to be a big move, but we don't know when, okay? Now, what am I doing here? Let's go back to the dollar now, okay? I am definitely interested in something long dollar. Something long dollar. I've been saying this. I believe the dollar is going to be setting up for some type of move higher, okay? So this dollar is bottoming out. It is bottoming out. Okay, it is definitely bottoming. Look at that. 3 daily candles here at this support of 97. Now we need to break up above this trend line. And I'm looking at like futures and the euro futures, possibly to short the euro futures. That's what I'm looking at. You can also go long the UUP stock. There's a couple that you could do Forex, the Euro USD pair, but like I'm probably looking at the Euro futures, which is here. It's /6E. This is Euro futures, and it's pretty much inverse to the dollar, so I would be looking to short this. Okay, again, this is not financial advice. This is just what I'm possibly thinking of doing. Okay, be a nice move, possibly get to here. I don't know. Right? All right, let's look at the VIX. That's 30 days out of fear. The VIX has been a little elevated as of late. Let's get into this little range here. You can see that volatility spiked up, down, spiked up, and now we're holding in this area. Now the VIX is coming off because we just came off that bottom, right? That big wick I showed you. That's why the VIX is coming off to 19. Still a nice VIX though. But look at this. This is a very key too. 200-day moving average is flat as can be. Okay, that again, just a moving average. So we got to look at that. Oh, long term, this VIX is pretty much flat. Long term, right? 50 sloping down a little bit. All right, that's how you look at those things real quick. Real quick. All right, now let's move on to futures at 1 hour charts. All right, we get into that analysis. I give you some nice analysis there, okay? And I'm going to show you a little bit of volume profile. That will be a little more easier on the eyes, I believe. A little more easier on the eyes. I'm going to get rid of what I had there, and I will put it back, and you'll know why. Okay, so let's look at those hourly charts. All right, let's do that together. And this is just a little more granular than obviously a daily chart. This is hourly chart, okay? I want to show you something. Let me get my marker out. Okay. All right, so here's the bottom line. This is not rocket science, okay? Here's the bottom line. From this day, right, this has been support. Okay, come down, came down, came down, came down, came down again. Right here. And then you have pushed up. Now, once we were down here, I was like, oh man, this is going to be probably a nice long. And just why, right? Because we've been lower highs, downtrending, right? So when you're short from here, and you take this down here, and the market's ripping up a little bit, okay? When you go and you can't go lower, the shorts, if you're not going to get that break lower, are going to have to cover. As soon as you rip up, everybody from the top is going to take profits. They become buyers, new buyers come in, and we consolidate it. And we kind of made an inverse head and shoulders. Okay, this is the neckline. Well, that uranium news broke out. Okay, it broke out, and we hit this downtrend line. And what else did we hit? June's month-to-date anchored VWAP. Right there. Okay, now this is another indicator, right, for me. This is month-to-date anchored VWAP. What is it doing? Flat. When it's flat, that's range-bound markets. Even intraday, that's a tip. If your VWAP is flat on a day, expect a range-bound market. Okay? So, now, where are we? Some important levels that are out here. The ES, now 60.65 is the most traded price of this year and the rolling year. And this is the most traded price of the week. And this is just balance, right? Ultimate balance is in this area. Where is price right now? Can't make it up. We're right there. I expect this market to kind of die in here. This should die in here before the open. And then it's just, what do? Do we trend lower? Right? Test this bottom again? Do we go back to the other side up here? I don't know. Okay, but what I want to show you is a visual, okay, a volume profile, because yes, you guys can see this is the most traded price of this year, but it's, you want to really see it in a nice way, you do it like this. Give me a sec here. And we're going to go from the start of this right here. And this is going to draw a volume profile of all the action, and you're going to see it. Okay? So that just gives me the volume profile from this moment in time. This is a bell curve, folks. Look. That's balance. That's evenly distributed. Okay? Where's the value area? In here, the highlighted area. That means 70% of this trading volume has happened in this area. This is the value area. This is deemed value, price is in the middle of this. Literally right here at this low volume node. Okay. Now, look at the big spikes. There's your most traded price of the week, which I have right there with that rectangle. And look at this spike right there. That's your most traded price of this year, of this month, in the rolling year. Monster level. Okay. Ultimate. You can't get any more balanced than this when it's the most traded price of the month, the year, the rolling year, the week. All that is here. And this is the visual. I wanted to give you the visual of why those prices are on my chart, right? Without volume profile. You see it now. And you see price is right at the anchored VWAP of the month. All right. I just want to show everybody that this is why I have these on my chart. I only have things that I know that work and know that tell me a story. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Okay. Now with this profile, you can slide it to wherever I want. So if I just wanted to go, all right, let's see it from this top candle here. Boom. Right? That's all I want to see. Oh, from this point on, what have we done? Well, most traded price of the week. There you go. And we still have that double distribution, right? Still showing the most volumes trading in this area. You can see not a lot of volumes. Even all this, right? Look to the left. That's not a lot of volume. Why? It's because it was like in a time that not a lot of trade happens. Not people aren't active in the markets really. Even though there's a lot of action here in the candles. Look at the volume, just weak, right? So that tells you everything you need to know. Just wanted to show you that. Okay, I do have an anchored VWAP from the lows. Let's see what that does. We do have an anchored VWAP from here. That's right there. That just shows me a support or a resistance level for shorts and longs. That's how I use them, okay? Moving on to the NASDAQ now. Okay? And it's very similar. It's almost pretty much exact. Same crap. Most traded price of the year. Let's call it 220. It is 219,999.5. Let's call it 220. But look, the most traded price of the month and the week is here. The most traded price of this year is here. The most traded price of the rolling year is down here at 21650. And I talked about this last week. I said the most traded price of the week and the most traded price of the rolling year will become a ping pong effect. Look what we did. Boom. Right to it. And bounced. Right to where? The most traded price of this year. That is why those are on my charts. That is why. Okay? And we're in the middle of balance now. Here's the downtrend line. Can it close above here? I don't know. Okay? I don't know. But again, support, support, support. Market couldn't go lower. Boom. Shorts take profits. They become buyers. New buyers come in. It forces the market back into where? Indecision land. Balance. Indecision land. Okay? So in the here is choppy. It's going to chop. It won't move like crazy. Okay? Unless there's a catalyst. So this is your NASDAQ. Here's the anchor VWAP from these highs. Look, it's challenging that VWAP. There's your anchor VWAP for the month. It's now above it. There's your anchor VWAP from the lows. This anchor VWAP right here, guess what that is? That's from the U.S.-China trade pause. People are still in profit from that move. Okay, that's how you use those anchor VWAPs. This is from the U.S.-China trade pause news. That means the average buyer this is the level the average buyer is at. That's what I love about anchored VWAPs. Okay? It literally tells me, oh, they're still in profit. All right, that's your NASDAQ. All right, we don't need to do the volume profile. You can see it's in the middle of balance. Okay? So, we're going to move on now to futures. Okay? and we'll look at this of what's going on in our markets. Okay, we'll look at what's going on in our markets. Hopefully, this is making sense. I know that what I look at can be somewhat advanced to people who just look at candlesticks, but candlesticks do not tell you much information. They just don't. Okay. Besides open, high, and low, and close, it doesn't tell you where the volume has been. Right. Volume just tells you behavior. At the end of the day, it tells you human behavior. That's what I love about it. All right, let's move on. I don't got to recap FOMC day. Okay, that was a nothing burger. But there's a lot that's happened. Okay, so this was the trading after the close. That was a pretty nice session. Then we had this little RTH session yesterday, which is very low volume. Okay, very low volume. And then that's where we opened up Sunday at 6. And look, we just drove up, hung out, ripped. Now we're at the month of day VO, just like I showed you earlier. Okay, these levels are all on my charts. All right. Now, the beauty of this setup on this screen is I have the rolling week to date profile. So, got a nice little value area here. We got extension to the downside. Price is where? In value, in the middle of balance, like I just showed you. Okay, this is just another way to look at it. I showed you why. All right. So, it gets a little weird because this is an RTH session that's like nobody cares about. This is an overnight session that people did care about it after the FOMC and the market was closed. But guess what? If you look at Wednesday's range, this is Wednesday. This is the midpoint. It says mid 60-50. Look at that. We're at the middle of Wednesday's range. Okay? So if you went to bed at the close of Wednesday and you got up now, you'd be in the middle of the range of Wednesday, in the middle of balance. All right? So this makes this just crappy to trade it. I'm just being honest, okay? And look at this balanced profile in the overnight. Very balanced. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Can't get a more beautiful profile here. And that means there's a balance, there's equilibrium here between buyers and sellers in the middle of balance. So it's just like I said, it's not the best. Okay? Not the best. So now, how do we trade that? All right. So I'm going to mark up some levels now, which I already did before. We have this demand down here. Okay. We know that's been support. 59.69. This area, right? Couldn't go lower. This is last week's lows. The market could not break them and hold under them. And when you're in balance, like I said, once you go from balance highs to balance lows and you can't go lower, you go back to balance highs. So now we know sellers can puke up this position, right? This could force us back up. Okay. Now the top of this balance is around 61.16. So I would put this supply zone here. Okay. Now, we're in the middle of this crap. So this is the overnight high, which goes around with the most traded price of the week. You have another level here, 60.81, right here. There's a supply right here. Okay. We have a demand right here. Okay. Now, what's the story of the market? I'm going to put that first. What's the story? Okay, so before I do that, let's do scenarios because I want to make sure everybody understands the story and why emotion and psychology play into how you have to look at trading. Okay, here we go. What is the story? All right, here's the story. Here is last week's highs. We haven't went up there, right? And here is last week's lows. That's last week's range. That's why I have them on my charts, right? We're within last week, right? And I showed you we just been balancing since June 3rd. Okay? So, if I'm a short here and I keep getting paid, lower highs, right? Lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. And then we hit a key level. If you're short here and you're like, ooh, I'm getting paid, boy, and you know, ooh, this is a key support level and it can't go lower, I'm going to cover my position. I'm going to take my profits. And if I'm the new person, I want to buy here. Okay? And what could happen? Well, now you're pushing up. And if anybody was holding on, anybody was holding on to any of these positions, okay, and you come through the balance, the meat of the balance, right? You're going to get short covering. And it's going to possibly go boop, 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 but you're going to see a market like go do this. And people are going to short cover. And then you go back up. Okay? That's what I would see the easiest path today. Now, could that not happen? Yes. But that's how you have to look at it when you're in balance like this. Okay? So, we're going to start with a bull scenario. Now, I hate this trade location. Hate it. Okay? What I want to see, because I don't want to be involved here, anywhere in here. I want to be not involved there. So let's just say we push up, push down, and we drop into this demand. All right, most traded price of the overnight's right there. Maybe we scared the market a little bit, but then we hold, push back, rip into this balance. Now you could try to push through this, break the 60.81 and try to go up to the balance highs. This was my probably favorite scenario here. Get a little weakness to go to launch. All right, if we fall back into here, that is not bullish, okay? Could it work? Yes, but I want this market to do what I said. I want shorts to cover. Okay? The other thing that can happen, because price is here, and I'm not saying I would love this, but you can rip up and then hold, and to get a move. That's all for the bullish for me. Okay? Now, there is a bearish case here. Okay? We know we're in a downtrend. Okay? But big key here, flat anchored VWAP for the month, right? It's flat. That means it could be anybody's game right now. Okay, we do have supply here. So what I would want to see if I'm a bear would be this. Push up into here, fail to get accept value above it, rip down. Now, I would probably, like I said, I don't love here. I don't love it, but if it was a rejection here, right, you could possibly come through here, hold, and then we can rip through this most traded price, 60.20 in the overnight. This is the most traded price. You rip through that. There's not much volume down here, and you could test these lows. Okay. The other thing, if you wanted to wait a little longer, you push down. Okay. You push down, and I'd actually like to see a pullback right to here. And for this, to try to break this, and can fail, and you can rip down. Okay? The only other thing that's possible is if we end ourselves up here, right? And it's failing. It's lower highs at the end of the day, possibly end of day fade into balance. Okay? That's the ES. That's the ES. Let's move on to the NASDAQ. Now, it's going to be similar, okay? Because the structure is very similar. Okay, the structure is very similar. We're in the middle of balance. Okay, in the middle of balance, we have our last week's highs, last week's lows. That's the range from last week. We're in the middle of it, okay? Now, let's look at our levels. Okay, let's look at our levels. Big, nice balanced profile, right? Very nice and balanced. So, we know support's down here in the most traded price of the rolling year, which acted as support. The very beautiful balance profile in the overnight. Okay, but we're in the middle of balance. Okay, so we do have a supply here that lines up with the most traded price of the week and the most traded price of the month. We do have our most traded price of this year right here, and we're in the middle of this crap. Okay, so in this crap, you want to either accept above or accept below and figure out what you want to do, because inside here is a mess. Okay, you got a demand zone here, and then we have kind of basically a little bit of a balance high here. And again, I went over the story before. Okay, I'm not going to go over that again, but we're going to go into the scenarios now. Okay, into the scenarios now. And we're going to start with the bull side. Okay, so a couple things that I'd like to see here. All right, let's say we open right here at overnight highs. We push up, we fail. We come through here quick. We drop into this demand zone, the most traded price 219. If this holds and you get a lower highs, higher lows, I'm sorry, it's got to be quick. Okay, this will provide liquidity for the move to try to rip through this. Okay, this is my number one, and we could test this side. This would complete the story. All shorts to all back longs to balance highs. Okay, now, of course, we can open, rip higher. Then I would want to pull back here to possibly get something. This is not as great for me as a scenario as this is. Again, if we fall all the way back down here, well, the market's probably going to be weak. Can you get a bounce down here? Sure. But that's not exactly what I'm looking for today. All right. Now, short side. Okay. It's going to be very similar, obviously, to what I just showed you in the ES. All right. We're at overnight highs right now. We're in the middle of crap. So what do I want to see if I'm a short? If we push up, and this has got to be quick, into this supply and reject, come right through here. Right? What I would like to see is hold under here. Hold. Find acceptance below. And then try to rip through the most traded price 219. Boom. This should take you down to the overnight lows, into the bottom of balance. Bottom of balance. Okay. Now the market is right in the middle. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Now, the one thing I will say is you're going to make a move down or up from this area. It's an inside out trade. It's just not highly probable. It's very choppy, so you don't know. So I want to see, I want to play off if we move up or if we move down, which I just showed you. I want to play off that. Okay? So we can also drive lower. So here's another scenario, okay? If we drive lower, get support here, then reject here and start doing this, also the move could be lower. And of course, end of the day, if we find ourselves up here, right, and we're edging towards last week's highs, and say we get some lower highs, maybe a fade back to bounce. I'm not a fan of that. I'm just saying it's probably might would happen. Could happen, okay? Okay. That is it. All right. I don't know if I showed what I wanted to show here. I don't think I did. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Just to show you the graphic of quad witching, okay, $6.5 trillion coming off the table today. $6.5 trillion. It's going to be good volume, good volatility, and then I said we can pin. Okay? Just wanted to give you that graphic. I'm not sure if I showed you that earlier. All right. So, hopefully you enjoyed that and you can smash that like button for me. All right. I try to give nuggets, golden nuggets. I try to do that to open people's eyes on to see why the market does what it does. And try not to be lulled in by price action. By price action. Okay? Because price action on a smaller time frame will drive you nuts if you don't have a plan. Because you think your mind will play tricks on you and make sure that, oh, long, big green, big red, and if you don't have a plan, it can screw with you. Okay? That's why I showed you the big picture. We're in the middle of balance. We're at a horrible trade location. Giving you the picture. We just went from the highs to the lows, and now from the lows, and we're moving up. So this is what's happening right now. Okay? I'd much rather be at the lows right now, or the highs, than in the middle of balance. All right? All right. So, now, that being said, if you're new, subscribe, set an alert, all right? Like I said, if you just want to know about stock market, why the stock market's doing what it's doing, you watch my first 20 minutes and then you take off because then it's TA and it's probably too advanced. It doesn't matter, right? That's how I feel. Everybody could have their cup of coffee, have a cup of tea. I give you why the market's doing what it's doing, right? The story, we're in balance, okay? That's what you get out of it. All right, you're a trader, you watch the whole thing, and you get the golden nuggets. Okay? Now, you got my analysis. If you want live analysis when the market opens, my market internals, okay, you will come to Confluence Trading, my Discord, okay? Sign up, go to my YouTube homepage. I would love to go live and interact with you guys. Okay? Obviously, people have to want that, right? And I can do live commentary. I always give my commentary in posts, right? What I'm seeing, and you really see how the market works. This isn't just, oh, NASDAQ is doing this. No, I could tell you why the NASDAQ or why the ES is doing this. Why are we doing this? And I will tell you. Okay, so join up, reach out, say, hey, I would love you to go live. We'll go live. We'll go live, okay? So, that being said, this is Friday. Everybody have a good weekend. Remember, no trade's a trade. Hope everybody stays green today. Cash is a position. And if I see you in my Discord, I see you. Say hi. If not, everybody have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday morning.